When the mind won't let go, the real cost of overthinking. There's a kind of pain that doesn't scream, it doesn't bleed, it doesn't show up in scans or leave a mark on your skin, but it weighs on your chest at night, keeps you staring at the ceiling, and makes silence feel like a storm. It's the pain of overthinking. You know it. That endless spiral of thoughts that begins with one small moment. A look that didn't feel right. A message left unanswered, a goodbye. That came too quietly. And suddenly, your mind is no longer your own. You replay the moment, rebuild the scene, rewrite every word they said or didn't say. Your heart isn't just aching because they left. It's aching because your mind won't let them leave. And here's the part no one tells you. It's not them hurting you anymore. It's you hurting you. The mind clings. It holds on, even when the hands are empty. It loops, even when the story is over. It whispers, maybe if I think about it one more time, I'll understand. I'll heal. But thinking doesn't heal. Awareness does. The Buddha taught that suffering doesn't come from what happens to us. It comes from our refusal to let it pass. We don't suffer because someone walked away. We suffer because we're still holding the door open, still waiting for them to return, still refusing to sit down and breathe without them. Overthinking is not a sign of wisdom. It's a sign of fear, the fear of letting go, the fear of not knowing, the fear that if we stop thinking about them, we'll lose what little we still have left. But what if you haven't lost anything? What if peace isn't found in understanding every detail, but in surrendering the need to? Right now, in this very breath, you are safe. You are here. The memory is not here. The person is not here. Only your thoughts are. And thoughts can be released. You are not broken. You are just tired. Tired of fighting battles inside your head that no one else can see. And it's okay to rest now. To put the thought down. To say, I've carried this long enough. Let this be the moment you stop searching for closure in loops that never end. Let this be the moment you take your first step toward freedom. Because what comes next isn't about them. It's about you. It's about healing. It's about the gentle art of letting go. You're not missing them. You're attached to the idea of them. It's a strange thing to miss someone who may no longer exist in the form your mind remembers. You sit quietly, and their image appears. A smile, a laugh, the way they used to say your name. And you feel it all again. The warmth, the closeness, the ache. But what if what you're missing isn't them at all? What if what you truly long for is the idea of them, crafted by memory, shaped by longing, and polished by your own heart? The mind has a way of turning people into stories. And stories are comforting because they're consistent. They don't shift. They don't disappoint. They stay exactly as we imagine them to be. So when someone changes, when they leave, or grow distant, or simply fade, we don't grieve the real person. We grieve the version we created. We grieve the role they played in our story. We grieve the idea of who we thought they were and who we thought we were when we were with them. That's why it hurts so much. Because reality doesn't always match the image. Maybe they weren't as kind as you believed. Maybe the connection wasn't as deep. Maybe the relationship was beautiful, but only because you were the one pouring so much beauty into it. And yet, you hold on. Not to the person, but to the possibility. The what-ifs. The potential. The version of them that existed in your head. The one who saw you, understood you, stayed with you. But here's the truth. That version may have never existed outside of your hopes. And that's not your fault. You loved fully. You gave your heart honestly. But now you're mourning an illusion. And illusions don't return your love. In Buddhism, clinging to illusions is one of the roots of suffering. We create attachments not only to people, but to how we imagine they should be. And the tighter we cling, the more it hurts when life reveals something different. The Buddha taught that freedom begins when we see clearly, not through the eyes of longing, but through the eyes of truth. Ask yourself, are you missing them? Or are you missing the way you felt when they were in your life? The comfort, the safety, the excitement, the validation. Are you missing the reality or the dream? Because if you're honest, you may realize they stopped showing up for you long ago. Maybe they never truly did, and still, you stay emotionally entangled, not because of love, but because of attachment to what could have been. But what could have been isn't what is. And holding on to a version of them that no longer exists, or never did, keeps you from experiencing the peace that does exist right now. This isn't a call to harden your heart. It's not about turning cold. It's about learning to see clearly and love wisely. You can still cherish the moments you shared. You can still honor what was beautiful, but you don't have to stay imprisoned by a memory your mind refuses to let go. Let go, not because they don't matter, but because your peace matters more. Let go, not because you didn't love, but because you now understand that love and attachment are not the same. They may no longer be in your life, but you are, and this life is still unfolding. Don't let a memory pull you backward when your heart is ready to move forward. You don't need to erase them. You just need to release the version of them that never truly belonged to this moment. Because the more you let go of what isn't real, the more space you create for what is. Overthinking is a symptom. Clinging is the cause. We often think the problem is overthinking, that if we could just stop our minds from racing, just silence the thoughts, just turn off the loop, we would finally feel peace. But overthinking is not the root. It's the echo. It's what happens when something deeper is left unresolved. It is not the fire. It is the smoke. And if you only chase the smoke, you'll never put out the fire. The real cause is clinging. A subtle, often invisible grip the mind refuses to loosen. We cling to people, to moments, to conversations we wish had gone differently. We cling to how things were, how we hoped they'd be, how we think they should have been. And because the mind refuses to accept what is, it spins stories around what was and what could have been. That spinning is what we call overthinking. It's easy to believe we're just deep thinkers, that we're analyzing because we care. That thinking is our way of processing. But if we look more closely, we'll see that most of our thinking isn't productive at all. It's repetitive, circular, tiring. And underneath it is fear. The fear of letting go. The fear of uncertainty. The fear that if we stop thinking about it, we'll lose something important. That we'll forget. That will be forgotten. But what are we really afraid of losing? A person? A connection? Or just a version of the story where everything still makes sense? The Buddha taught that suffering arises from attachment, not from the world, but from how we hold the world in our minds. When you grip too tightly, you suffer. When you demand that people, situations, or emotions remain a certain way, you suffer. And so when the reality begins to shift, as it always does, your mind tries to resist. And that resistance becomes mental chaos. The mind starts to unravel, not because of what happened, but because it cannot accept that it happened. Overthinking is the mind's way of bargaining. It's saying, if I just replay this one more time, I'll understand it better. I'll fix it. I'll protect myself next time. But there is no fixing the past. And the future doesn't exist yet. All we ever truly have is now. And now is being wasted on loops that lead nowhere. If you want to end the cycle of overthinking, don't fight your thoughts. Look deeper. Ask yourself, what am I still holding on to? Is it a person? An expectation? A version of yourself that no longer fits who you've become? Is it a hope that they'll change, that things will rewind, that you'll finally get closure? Clinging makes the mind restless. Acceptance makes it still. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you erase the past. It means you allow life to move forward without dragging your thoughts backward. It means you breathe without needing to solve everything. You feel without needing to control. You may think overthinking is the enemy, but it's just a messenger. It's telling you you're holding too tightly, and the more you ignore that message, the louder it becomes. Not because your mind is broken, but because it's trying to protect something you haven't been willing to release. The path to peace is not paved with more thoughts. It's found in surrender, in softness, in the quiet moment when you finally say, I don't need to hold this anymore. You don't need to solve the story. You just need to stop living inside it. Overthinking ends the moment clinging ends. And clinging ends the moment you realize you are already whole, even without the answers, even without them, even without control. The ego's stories. Why you keep replaying what happened. The mind is a storyteller, and the most persistent author behind its stories is the ego, a small, frightened part of ourselves that clings to identity, control, and certainty. When something happens that threatens our sense of who we are, especially in relationships, the ego rushes in to fill the silence with explanations. That's why you keep replaying what happened. Not because you're trying to torture yourself, but because your ego is desperate to protect you from the unknown. And so it tells stories. It replays conversations, rewrites endings, imagines what you should have said, what they should have done, how it could have gone differently. It pulls you into an endless loop, whispering, if we can just figure this out, we'll be safe again. But there is no safety in stories, only temporary illusions. You replay the moment because your ego wants closure. It wants justice. It wants to be right. It wants to be seen. And when it doesn't get that from the outside, it tries to manufacture it internally. That's when the loop begins. You become trapped, not in the event itself, but in your mind's need to assign meaning, to place blame, to reclaim your worth through imagined revisions of the past. The ego isn't evil. It's just scared. It believes your value depends on how others treat you. So when someone ignores you, rejects you, leaves you, it interprets that as a threat to your entire identity. It says, this shouldn't have happened. I didn't deserve that. And maybe you didn't. But the ego doesn't stop there. It keeps feeding the fire. They should have known. They owed me more. I must have done something wrong. What if I was never enough? And suddenly, your mind becomes a courtroom. Your ego both the judge and the wounded victim. This cycle is exhausting, and it's all based on a single illusion. That peace will come when the story finally makes sense. But the truth is, some things won't make sense. Some people won't explain themselves. Some closures will never arrive. And the longer you wait for them, the longer you delay your own freedom. Buddhism teaches us to observe the mind, not to become it. When you step back and witness the ego at work, you begin to see the difference between what actually happened and the layers of narrative your mind has added. You realize that pain doesn't just come from events. It comes from your refusal to let go of how you think it should have gone. The ego wants to be in control, but peace comes when you surrender the need to control. You can't rewrite the past. You can't force people to give you what they never offered. What you can do is return to yourself, to the breath, to the body, to the stillness underneath the noise. The next time your mind replays that moment, pause. Don't try to stop the thought. Just notice it. Say silently, the ego is writing again. Don't believe everything it says. Most of it is fiction, dressed up as truth. Most of it is fear, pretending to be clarity. You don't need to win the argument in your head. You don't need to be right in someone else's story. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. You are not the narrative. You are the awareness behind it. And when you remember that, you begin to see through the illusion. The past loses its grip. The loop begins to loosen. And in that space, just beyond the ego's voice, you find something the story could never give you: silence, presence, freedom. You've suffered enough trying to make sense of what happened. Maybe it's time to stop telling the story. Maybe it's time to stop needing to be the hero in someone else's script. Maybe peace isn't found in a better ending, but in no longer needing one. Let them change. Let them go. Let yourself heal. people change, sometimes slowly, like the fading of a season. Other times all at once, like a door slamming shut. One day they laugh with you, and the next, they drift away. Emotionally, physically, silently. And your heart, so deeply rooted in what was, doesn't understand. It reaches backward, searching for something familiar, hoping to bring them back to who they used to be, but they're no longer there. And that's not a betrayal. It's simply life. We often cling not because we're weak, but because we once felt something real. A connection, a shared moment, a version of them that made us feel seen. And so when that person begins to change, when their words grow colder, when their presence starts to vanish, we think, maybe I did something wrong. We try harder, give more, love louder. But no amount of trying can hold someone in place who's already begun to move on. Letting someone change is one of the hardest forms of love, because it means accepting that the version of them you cherished may no longer exist. It means grieving not just their absence, but the future you once imagined with them. And yet, it's also the most compassionate thing you can do for them and for yourself. You don't have to agree with how they changed. You don't have to understand it. You just have to allow it. Because growth, even when painful, is not wrong. People are not static. They are rivers, always moving, sometimes away from you. The more you try to hold the current in your hands, the more it slips through your fingers. It's tempting to chase closure, to search for explanations. But most of the time, the only closure you'll ever get is the peace you choose to give yourself. Not everyone will explain why they left. Not everyone will stay long enough to say goodbye. And sometimes, their silence is the loudest truth of all. There's a part of you that wants to hold on. Of course there is. But there's another part, quieter, wiser, that is asking you to release. Not out of bitterness, not out of defeat, but out of the deep knowing that healing begins the moment you stop resisting what is. The Buddha taught that everything is impermanent. Clinging to what's no longer real is like trying to keep a flower from wilting. You can't. All you can do is love it while it blooms and let it go when the time comes. Let them change. Let them go. And in that space they once filled with uncertainty, allow yourself to return to you, to your breath, to your body, to your own becoming. You are not the version of yourself that needed their presence to feel whole. You are not the person you were when they still held your hand. You have changed too. And now, it's your turn to evolve, not from pain, but through it. Healing doesn't mean you'll forget them. It means you'll remember yourself. It means you'll stop waiting for someone to come back and give you permission to feel peace. It means realizing you don't need their return to reclaim your life. So let them change. Let them become a stranger if they must. Let the story end, even if the final chapter feels unfinished. And then, turn the page. Because the next chapter is not about them. It's about you. It's about your healing. And it's waiting to begin. Real love doesn't hurt. Only possession does. Love, in its purest form, is gentle. It uplifts. It breathes, moves, and gives space. But somewhere along the way, many of us learned a version of love that clings, that demands, that hurts. And we began to believe that the ache in our chest was proof of how deeply we cared, that the anxiety, the jealousy, the fear of loss were all signs of real love. But that's not love. That's possession wearing love's face. Real love doesn't imprison. It doesn't need to own, to control, to constantly be reassured. It doesn't keep score or beg to be chosen every day. Real love stands quietly in the background and says, I want what's best for you, even if it's not me. It doesn't hold someone so tightly that they can't breathe. It holds them lightly, with open hands, knowing that love is not proven by how tightly we grasp, but by how gently we let others be free. Possession is rooted in fear. The fear of being alone. The fear of being abandoned. The fear that without this person, we are somehow incomplete. And so we build a story, one where they are ours, where they must stay, where their role in our life is fixed and permanent. But people are not furniture. They don't stay in one place just because we want them to. They grow, they shift, they walk away. And if our love is built on the need to hold, we suffer every time life asks us to release. The Buddha taught that suffering comes from attachment, from clinging to things, people, and outcomes as if they could offer lasting security. But nothing in this life is fixed. Not emotions, not relationships, not even the people we love most. And when we confuse love with possession, we set ourselves up for heartbreak, not because love failed, but because we demanded it stay the same forever. So many people say, "But it hurts because I love them." No, it hurts because you wanted to keep them the same, because you placed your peace in their hands, because their leaving felt like a reflection of your worth. But real love doesn't leave you empty when it walks away. Real love, even when it ends, leaves behind a soft echo, a memory without bitterness, a lesson wrapped in grace. Ask yourself, do you love them, or do you just need them to love you back? Do you love who they are, or the role they play in your story? Can you love them without needing them to stay, to choose you, to respond the way you want? Love is not a contract. It's not a cage. It's a gift. And the moment you attach strings to it, you must stay, you must make me feel complete, you must never change. It stops being love. It becomes fear. You deserve a love that breathes. And the people you love deserve that too. Not pressure, not guilt, not obligation. Love says, I see you as you are, and I do not need to change you to feel secure. Love says, even if you go, I will not crumble, because I did not build my wholeness on your presence. When you let go of possession, love becomes lighter. It becomes something beautiful, not because it's guaranteed to last forever, but because it doesn't have to. Its value comes from its sincerity, not its permanence. Real love doesn't hurt, but trying to control it does. Chaining it down does. Making someone responsible for your happiness does. So if it's hurting, ask yourself, not why did they do this to me, but what am I still trying to hold that was never mine to keep? Let love be soft. Let it be free. Let it teach you, not how to hold tighter, but how to hold kinder. And when it comes, cherish it. When it changes, bless it. And when it leaves, release it. Not with bitterness, but with love, because that's what real love does. If it's peace you want, don't wait for closure. We are taught to believe that peace comes with closure, that once we have the final conversation, the explanation, the apology, we'll be able to breathe again. That if they just told us why they left, if they just admitted they were wrong, if they just saw how much we were hurt, then we could finally let go. But closure is not something they give you. It's something you give yourself. The truth is, some people will never explain. Some people will disappear without warning, without reason, without the decency of a goodbye. Some people will move on as if you never mattered, and that silence will echo louder than any words they could have said. And in that emptiness, your mind will search for meaning. You'll replay memories, overanalyze moments, try to fill in the blanks with your own painful assumptions. You'll beg the past for answers it no longer holds. But the longer you wait for them to come back and explain, the longer you delay your own healing. Closure is an illusion when it's dependent on someone else's behavior. The person who hurt you may not even be capable of giving you what you seek. They may not understand what they did. They may not care. They may not even remember it the way you do. You are holding on to something they've already released. You are trapped in a story they've stopped reading. And yet, you keep the door open. You wait. You imagine a moment where they return and say all the right things, and you feel seen, validated, understood. But that moment may never come. And the peace you're hoping for will stay just out of reach. Not because it isn't possible, but because you've placed it in their hands. Buddhism teaches that suffering comes not from what happens, but from our resistance to what is. Waiting for closure is a form of resistance. It's a refusal to accept that sometimes you won't get the apology. Sometimes you won't know the reason. Sometimes the only closure you'll ever get is the one you create within by no longer needing anything more from them. This doesn't mean your pain isn't valid. It doesn't mean what happened didn't matter. It means that your healing matters more, that your peace is too important to be postponed by someone else's silence. You can choose to close the chapter, not with answers, not with perfect understanding, but with a deep breath and a quiet knowing that you've suffered enough waiting. You do not need their words to validate your experience. You do not need their permission to move on. You do not need to keep revisiting a wound to prove that it hurt. You are allowed to choose peace, even without the ending you hoped for. So stop checking your phone. Stop rehearsing what you'd say if they came back. Stop hoping they'll finally see what you've been carrying. You've carried it long enough. Put it down. Let your peace begin where their story ends. Not because they gave you closure, but because you decided you didn't need it to be free. The middle way: care without obsession, release without coldness. There's a delicate balance we all search for in love and letting go. We want to care deeply, but not lose ourselves. We want to release, but not become cold or distant. But most of us swing between extremes, clinging too tightly, then pushing too far away. We either obsess over someone or we shut down entirely. But neither brings peace. Real freedom lives in the space between, the middle way. The Buddha discovered this path after years of trying both extremes. First indulgence, then self-denial. Both left him empty. It was only when he stopped forcing either direction that clarity came. And the same is true in our relationships. When we try too hard to hold on, love becomes fear. When we force ourselves to let go too quickly, we turn our hearts to stone. True wisdom lies in allowing the heart to stay open without drowning in it. To care without obsession means you love someone, you think of them, you even miss them at times, but you don't let their presence or absence determine your worth. You don't need to check your phone every hour. You don't build your day around their replies or your self-esteem around their approval. You still feel, but you no longer chase. And to release without coldness means you let go of your attachment, but not your humanity. You don't pretend they never mattered. You don't deny the beauty of what was. You simply stop resisting change. You stop demanding that what once was must always be. Letting go isn't hardening your heart. It's softening your grip. This balance of caring and releasing, of feeling without drowning, isn't easy. It takes awareness. It takes patience. You'll find yourself tipping to one side sometimes, clinging to hope or retreating into indifference. That's okay. The practice is not to be perfect. The practice is to return to the center again and again. Ask yourself gently, am I holding too tightly right now? Am I pushing too far away? Your answer isn't meant to shame you. It's there to guide you back, to remind you that love doesn't have to hurt, and letting go doesn't have to mean forgetting. In this middle space, your heart remains soft. You can care without craving. You can remember without replaying. You can love without needing to possess. This is the way of presence, of maturity, of peace. You are allowed to miss them and still move forward. You are allowed to feel sad and still choose release. You are allowed to open your heart without offering it on an altar. The middle way is not about less feeling. It's about less suffering. And when you walk it, step by step, you realize you don't need to be empty to be free. You don't need to be hard to be whole. You just need to be here, present, steady, and kind. To others, yes. But most of all, to yourself. The present moment doesn't hurt. Only the past and future do. Right now, if you pause, take a breath, and truly drop into this moment, nothing is wrong. Nothing is broken. Nothing is missing. The mind may try to convince you otherwise, pulling you toward the past with memories or pushing you into the future with worry. But in the stillness of now, there is peace. The present moment is quiet. It does not demand anything from you. It doesn't remind you of what could have been. It simply is, and in that simplicity, there is healing. Most of the pain we carry isn't from what's happening right now. It's from what already happened or what we fear might happen next. We ache over words we can't take back. We grieve old versions of people who no longer exist. We stay up at night, playing out conversations that never finished, rewriting endings we wish had gone differently. Or we project ahead, trying to predict every outcome, fearing every possibility, searching for control in a future we can never fully touch. And all the while, we miss the only place where life actually happens here. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we resist what is, and much of that resistance is rooted in time. We resist the past because we don't accept what happened. We resist the future because we're afraid of what it might bring. But the present moment? We rarely resist it because we rarely notice it. We are too busy, reliving or rehearsing, too distracted to simply be. And yet, this breath, the one you're taking right now, is not from the past. It's not from the future. It's here. It's real. And in this breath, there's no story, no should've, no what if, just air, just being, just life moving through you. When you come home to the now, even for a moment, your nervous system softens. Your heart slows down. Your thoughts lose their grip. The mind may still whisper, but what about tomorrow? Or how could they do that to me? And that's okay. The mind is conditioned to time, but you don't have to follow it. You can choose to stay anchored. You can choose to respond with a gentle awareness. That's a thought, not reality. The present moment is not an escape from life. It is life. And every time you return to it, you reclaim your power. Because you are no longer trapped in stories. You are no longer feeding the pain of what was, or the fear of what might be. You are simply alive. And that is enough. So if your heart feels heavy, ask yourself, am I in the present or am I in a memory? If your chest feels tight, ask, am I here or am I lost in worry? And if the answer pulls you away from now, gently return. No force, no judgment. Just come back to your body, to your breath, to this exact moment where nothing is required of you but presence. Because this moment, right here, doesn't hurt. This moment is safe. This moment is free. The pain lives in the past. The fear lives in the future. But peace? Peace is always now. They left. The pain stayed. Now it's time to let both go. They walked away. Maybe slowly, step by step, over time. Or maybe suddenly, without warning, without closure. One day they were part of your world, your thoughts, your routine, your future, and the next, they weren't. But even after they left, something else remained. The pain. It lingered like a shadow, like a weight pressed into your chest that you couldn't explain to anyone. And for a while, it felt like the pain was all you had left of them. So you held on to it. Not because you wanted to suffer, but because letting go of the pain felt like letting go of them completely. Like erasing the last proof that it mattered. That they mattered. And maybe, deep down, you believed that if the pain stayed, a part of them would too. That by carrying the ache, you were somehow keeping the love alive. But pain is not proof of love. It's proof that something inside you is ready to heal. And healing doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean the memories disappear or the lessons fade. It simply means you stop letting what hurt you define what holds you. There's a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when you realize the pain is no longer teaching you anything. It's just replaying, just looping, just keeping you attached to a version of the past that no longer exists. The pain becomes a habit, a familiar echo in your body. But even the most familiar pain is still pain. And you don't have to carry it forever just because you've carried it for a long time. The Buddha taught that clinging is the root of suffering, not just clinging to people, but to the emotions we associate with them. Anger, regret, longing, sadness. These become threads tying you to someone who has already stepped out of your life. And each time you replay the story, you tighten the knot. Each time you reopen the wound, you delay the healing. They left, and it hurt. Of course it did. You're allowed to feel that. But you're not required to feel it forever. Their absence is real, but it doesn't need to be your home. You deserve more than a life built around a person who is no longer in it. You deserve peace, not just survival. Maybe they'll never come back. Maybe they were never meant to. But that doesn't mean you failed. That doesn't mean you weren't enough. It only means their chapter in your life is done, and you are the one who gets to write what comes next. So take a breath, a deep one, not for them, for you. Feel the weight you've been carrying. Acknowledge it, honor it, and then, slowly, begin to set it down. They left. The pain stayed. But now, it's time to let both go. Letting go is not giving up, it's waking up. Letting go is often misunderstood. People think it means surrendering in defeat, admitting that you've lost, walking away from something that mattered. They hear the words let go and imagine coldness, disconnection, or indifference. But the truth is, letting go is not the end of love. It's the end of illusion. It's not giving up, it's waking up. Waking up to the reality that clinging doesn't fix what's broken, that holding on doesn't guarantee someone will stay, that no amount of overthinking will undo what happened or force someone to become who you hoped they'd be. Letting go is the moment your heart stops trying to control what was never in your hands to begin with. It's the soft, quiet realization that peace doesn't come from holding tighter. It comes from loosening your grip. We cling because we're afraid of loss, of emptiness, of being forgotten. We think if we let go, we'll fall apart. But what actually happens is the opposite. We come home to ourselves. We stop outsourcing our peace to people who can't give it. We stop begging life to be different and start meeting life as it is. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean the love wasn't real. It doesn't mean the memories didn't matter. It means you're no longer willing to lose yourself in a version of the story that's already over. You can carry the wisdom. You can carry the love. But you no longer have to carry the weight. There's a moment, subtle but powerful, when you feel the shift. You wake up one morning and realize you're tired of waiting, tired of wondering, tired of trying to rewrite a chapter that has already ended. And in that moment, something inside you whispers, it's time, not to give up, but to begin again. The Buddha taught that attachment is the root of suffering, but awareness is the path to freedom. Letting go is the practice of awareness. It's the decision to be here now, rather than lost in what was. It's the courage to say, I deserve to be free, even if I don't have all the answers, even if I never get closure, even if they never come back. This kind of letting go isn't passive. It's not weakness. It's one of the bravest things you'll ever do, because it means trusting life again, trusting yourself again, trusting that you are capable of healing, growing, and loving without chains. So no, letting go is not giving up. It's waking up to your worth, waking up to the beauty of the present, waking up to the truth that your story is still unfolding, and it doesn't have to be defined by who didn't stay, what didn't last, or how it once hurt. Letting go is not the end. It's the beginning of everything real. You are not the storm. You are the sky. There are days when your thoughts feel loud, when emotions rise like crashing waves, when your chest tightens, your breath shortens, and your mind spins with everything you can't control. On those days, it's easy to believe you are the storm, that you are the anxiety, the sadness, the anger, that you are defined by what you're feeling. But that's not true. You are not the storm. You are the sky. The storm is temporary. It rolls in, it shakes things up, and eventually it passes. But the sky remains. It holds the storm without becoming it. It allows the winds to howl, the clouds to gather, the rain to fall, and still, it doesn't lose itself. In the same way, you can feel deeply without becoming consumed. You can have painful thoughts without letting them define you. You can witness the chaos without being destroyed by it. The problem is, we've spent so long identifying with our emotions that we forget they're just passing weather. We say, I am heartbroken, I am anxious, I am lost, but you're not. You are experiencing heartbreak. You are feeling anxiety. You are moving through confusion. These are experiences, not identities. And when you remember this, even the most intense moments begin to soften. You start to breathe again. You start to see clearly. The Buddha taught that everything arises and passes away. No emotion, no thought, no state of mind lasts forever. So why tie yourself to something that is already changing? Why believe that a passing storm defines the infinite space of who you are? In meditation, we are taught to observe the mind like watching clouds pass across the sky. You don't chase them. You don't hold them. You just notice. There's a thought. There's a feeling. There it goes. And in that noticing, something opens, the sky within you. Vast, still, unmoved. This doesn't mean you ignore your emotions or push them away. It means you hold them with compassion, but you no longer mistake them for your identity. You no longer fight the storm. You allow it to pass through you, knowing that you remain untouched at your core. And yes, sometimes the storm feels endless. It rages for days, weeks, even years. But even then, even in your darkest hour, the sky is still there, quietly holding space, waiting for you to return, not as something new, but as something ancient and true. The part of you that was never broken. The part of you that has always been free. So when the next wave of emotion rises, pause. Take a breath. Place your hand on your heart and remember, this is the storm, but I am the sky. You are not your fear. You are not your sadness. You are not the voice that doubts your worth. You are the awareness that sees it all. You are the space in which it all moves. You are the sky, vast, open, and endlessly whole. The door was never locked. You just forgot how to open it. There's a moment in life when you feel stuck, trapped inside your own mind. You replay conversations, revisit pain, hold on to people who are no longer holding on to you. You sit in the quiet, waiting for something to change, for someone to come back, for the feeling to lift. It's like being in a room with no windows, no exit, no air. You think, if only I had the key, if only I could unlock this part of me. That feels so heavy, so broken, so lost. But the truth is, there was never a lock. The door has always been there, wide and waiting. You just forgot how to open it. The mind is powerful. It builds stories, walls, entire identities around our pain. It convinces us we're stuck because that's what the pain feels like. And the longer we sit inside those stories, the more real the walls become. But none of it is real. The heartbreak, the guilt, the overthinking, they are all clouds passing through the open sky of your awareness. They are experiences, not prisons. You are not broken. You are not trapped. You are not waiting for someone else to come save you. You've had the ability to walk out of the storm all along. So why don't we? Why do we stay inside the mental cage? Because pain is familiar. Suffering becomes routine. And strangely, the mind feels safer in what it knows, even if it hurts, than in stepping into the unknown of healing. We confuse control with security, and so we cling to our wounds as if they protect us. But healing doesn't come from clinging. It comes from remembering. Remembering that you are not your thoughts. You are not your past. You are not the one who was left, abandoned, or ignored. You are the one who is here, breathing, capable of choosing something new. You are the one standing in front of the door, hand trembling, heart unsure, but ready. The Buddha said, "You yourself must strive. The Buddhas only point the way, No one else can walk you through that door. No apology, no closure, no perfect moment will ever do it for you. Freedom begins the moment you realize it's already available. Not after they come back. Not when you have it all figured out. But right now, in this breath, in this awareness, in this quiet courage to say, I don't have to stay here anymore. Maybe opening the door isn't one big moment. Maybe it's a series of small, sacred choices. Choosing to forgive even without an apology. Choosing to let go even while it still aches. Choosing to breathe instead of overthink. Choosing to trust the unknown, not because it's certain, but because staying stuck is no longer an option. The door was never locked. It was never outside of you. It was always waiting, gently, silently, for you to remember the way back to yourself. Now is the time. Not to force, not to run, just to turn the handle and walk through. Final reflections. The choice is yours. You began this journey carrying something heavy, a memory, a goodbye, a silence you couldn't explain. Maybe you didn't even know how tightly you were holding on until something inside you whispered, it's time. As we moved through these reflections together, something softened. Maybe it was the realization that you're not broken, just tired. That peace isn't something you need to earn. It's something you can return to. That the people who left were never holding your peace in the first place. You were. Letting go wasn't about forgetting. It wasn't about pretending it didn't matter. It was about finally telling the truth. This pain has stayed long enough. This story has played long enough. And I am ready to come back to myself. You are not your thoughts. You are not the one who was left. You are the one who remains. Still breathing. Still worthy. Still becoming. So if you're still holding your breath, breathe. If you're still waiting for closure, release. If you're still afraid to let go, trust that it's not falling, it's freedom. And if this touched something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Someone else out there is sitting alone with the same storm, waiting for a light. Share this with them. Subscribe if your heart wants to keep walking this path with presence, wisdom, and peace. And when you're ready, there's another door waiting for you in the next video. You've already opened one. The rest will open from within.